What's up everyone, I'm Steve and I show you how to take the BS out of personal finance. Today we're going to talk about FIRE, what it means and why it might not be right for you. So, you ready? Let's go.
Let's talk a little bit about the American dream. Usually it consists of going to college and getting a job, getting married, having 2.5 kids, having the house in the suburbs with a white picket fence, and then retiring at 65 the best you can and living out the rest of your life at that point. But, my wife and I feel like we are living the American dream, and we don't have a white picket fence. We don't even have kids. In fact, our fence is just wire. The moral of the story is the American dream or your definition of success, that's going to look very different to each person. Life is more organic than that. It's not just a bunch of ones and zeros. What makes me happy is going to look different than what makes you happy or your neighbor. And that is the magic of FIRE.
All right, we're back inside and let's start talking about the nitty-gritty of what FIRE actually means. FIRE is an acronym that stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early. These are two very different, very separate concepts. So let's separate them and talk about them individually. First, financial independence is a term that refers to being able to live your life without working a full-time job. You have amassed enough wealth through maybe real estate or the stock market where you don't have to work another day in your life. That real estate income continues to come in to fund your lifestyle. Maybe you sell dividends every year or sell stocks every year, but through capital gains, you're selling less than what you make in the stock market. However you have amassed your wealth, the term financial independence means you have enough to sustain yourself for the foreseeable future without having to work another job. Oh, that sounds great, doesn't it? The other part of that is the retire early part, which is essentially taking the next step. So you've already achieved FI, you don't have to work, and you choose not to work. You quit your job at whatever age. Early retire assumes that it's maybe you're in your 40s or maybe you're in your 50s or even 30s in some cases. But that's just taking the next step. And the important thing in early retirement is understanding what you're going to be retiring to rather than just retiring from a job or from corporate America that you don't like. So what are you going to do with your time? There's going to be that first 2 weeks after you retire early, where you could probably sit on the couch and veg and just binge on Netflix all day. But eventually that's going to start getting old and we're going to start returning to our baseline level of happiness, whatever that looks like. And if you don't have something in your life to fill your time, to make you feel productive each and every day, you're going to get really bored, really frustrated, and you will probably find yourself looking for something else to do, whether that's work or part-time work, full-time work, whatever that happens to look like. You're not going to be happy unless there's something there in your life to make you feel satisfied. So that is a crucial element in the retire early part of this equation. Now, you might be asking yourself, how do I know when I've achieved financial independence? Well, a lot of FIREes use what's called the Trinity 4% study. Back in the day, back in the 80s, four professors from Trinity University conducted a study to determine what percentage of your net worth you could spend every single year while standing a reasonably good chance of never running out of money again. And this assumes that the majority of your money, the large majority, is invested in the stock market. So it took a look at all the stock market returns, including the Great Depression and all recessions, and they found about 4% of your net worth. So that means there's two different ways that you can calculate your FI number if you want to use the Trinity 4% study. One is take your current net worth, which is all of your assets minus all of your liabilities. What's left is your net worth, how much money you actually have. And you can multiply that by 4%, and that's how much money that you could spend on a yearly basis and stand a pretty good chance of never running out of money. The other way is take your living expenses, or the amount of money you spend every single year, and multiply that number by 25. And that's the number that you should have as your net worth number in order to be financially independent. Now, this is very simple math. The Trinity Study has some fallbacks. It's not going to work for everybody. Sometimes it just doesn't work based on the current market conditions. It's based on very, very old data. Retirees are living a lot longer now because of advances in our healthcare system. So there are a lot of drawbacks to the Trinity 4% study, and I want to make sure that I mention those. However, even with those drawbacks, in my experience, the Trinity study is still a good foundational, am I in the right ballpark? It's a good starting point to determine what your FI number is, and it gives you something to shoot for as you're working through your career.
And now let's talk about why FIRE might not be right for you. If you love your job, if you don't see yourself ever quitting because you just fundamentally, it's who you are. You can't imagine not doing your job. Then FIRE might not be right for you, and that is fine. There's nothing wrong with loving your job. There's nothing wrong with loving what you do. In fact, that's great. We need people like that in our society who love what they do, who will continue working. That's wonderful. However, I would caution you against throwing out FIRE entirely, because there's lots of wisdom to the financial independence element of this, even if you have no interest in retiring early, because you love your job now, you love your boss now, but that might not always be the case. In fact, I can't think of a better example of the wisdom of FIRE than the coronavirus pandemic. I'm sure back in February, a job loss or a market crash was the last thing on our minds. We could never envision that because everything was going so well. People were working, market was up, everyone was making money, and then boom, a virus hit the entire world, shut everything down, and everything has changed. Effectively, our inability to be able to accurately predict the future is the wisdom in financial independence, because that gives you options. If you no longer like your job in the future and you are financially independent, you can up and quit in a day, and it's not going to affect you. So if you have no interest in retiring early, you love what you do, you'll never quit, that's great. But I would still highly, highly encourage you to pursue financial independence, because that gives you freedom, that gives you options, and that's probably going to make you a happier person.
All right, ladies and gents, that's it. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, lay them on me in the comments below. I will read every single one. Hope you learned something, and we will see you next time. Peace.